Welcome to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes Ministries. Thank you for listening. Janet will be talking about her struggle with addiction, alcohol, drugs, eating disorders, unwanted same-sex attraction, and living a homosexual life. Janet has survived all those things by the grace of God. Janet's not a doctor, she's not a therapist, she's not a psychotherapist, she's not a licensed counselor. Janet is an ordained pastor and wants to show you God's promises, how God has set her free, and how you can be set free. What He has done for her, He will do it for you. If healing and freedom are what you want, you have come to the right place at the right time. Let's get started. Here is Janet Boynes.
Now, I'm really excited to get Elicia here on Healing and Made Free. I've been trying to do this for a minute now, and she finally agreed. Elicia, welcome to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes.
Hi, Janet. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. I know, you're such a shy person and you don't always like being on camera, but I'm honored to have you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Elicia, I first want to go into have you share with my audience on how did we meet?
I was just intrigued with your book Called Out, and I read through that book, and immediately I just reached out, and you reached right back out to me, and I was like, wow, okay. And I just became very interested in your ministry, and I was able to volunteer. You just accepted me to volunteer and be a part. And we've grown to know each other through the ministry and working together in the ministry. And you even asked me to work on your newsletter, and that has been an exciting journey as well.
It is an exciting journey,
Yes.
and I don't think you understand the impact that your writing has had on my readers. You are an awesome writer. You're an amazing writer, and I'm still building that confidence within yourself on how good you are. But a lot of
Thank you.
times, Elicia, when you're good at something, there are certain things that can overshadow that because it's taken away from that beautiful gift that the Lord has given you. Not that you asked for it, but many years ago, you lost your husband. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think I'm embarking on almost 20 years. It's been. Yes, it was a journey that I had to take, and getting through it was hard, but we got here. We're okay.
Talk about the how your husband passed away and the journey that you went on to allow
Uh,
God to help you to heal.
my husband had congestive heart failure. He had a series of health issues from diabetes to high blood pressure, and it eventually took him out 2007, 9, I think it was. Sorry, and that was hard. My daughter was 18 at the time, and my son was 12. So getting through that was going through it with a son, raising a son to continue on the journey without his dad. Kind of took my focus, and trying to regroup after that for several years was a journey to deal with as a young mom.
As a young mom, your daughter was 18, and I'm not sure how old your son was at the time,
It's
but
12.
just for
Yes.
yourself, 12 years old, for a son to not have that father figure around, and you yourself trying to be, a mom and then try to play a role as a dad, which we realize we can't do, but you're trying to fill in those gaps. How hard was that for you?
It was difficult. I kind of leaned on my brothers to try to fill in, but that wasn't always successful. It was difficult to keep the journey and walking in the faith and praying and teaching, keeping and teaching them the principles of the Word of God, while trying to hold on to myself. It was rough, but I had to fight through some battles in dealing with teenagers, as we parents would know. You guys gotta deal with teenagers, which seems to be a different species of people altogether at times. It was hard, but I thank God that he brought me through it.
Every time we talk, you always make sure, that you talk about how God brought you through things. And having a son at such a young age in the culture that we're living in, to not have a father around to teach you the things of manhood, is it's really hard on uh, any culture, but I know it's hard on the Black culture because many of our fathers are, incarcerated, or they're not around because of whatever circumstance, and then some pass away. Your son, if your husband was here and it's do you think your son would do things differently because his father would have taught him those things and it wasn't a gap that you could fill?
I absolutely believe it would have had a different impact on where he would be right now. My son kind of got a little lost in that moment of losing his dad and trying to regroup. Um, I believe that my husband being in his life during those teenage years could have made a difference in the road that he traveled. Um, Having that strong figure, and then me trying to fill in those gaps. It worked to an extent, but you can never replace the male role in the house, the dad, that strong father figure. You just can't. You try because you have to do what you have to do as a mom, but it's just not possible to be both the mom and the dad. And that does play a part. And we can play it like it doesn't play a part in raising a male to be the man he should be, but it absolutely is significant to have a man that the young man growing up can follow after and see the strength of that family.
You know, that is so important, especially in our culture, because I know I really didn't have a dad around for the years that I grew up. But as a widow, how was that for you?
It was hard. And I could sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, I was all right. I got through it, but it's not true. I was lonely. I looked for companionship, and I tried to, through the church, try to find support. Not everybody can relate the way you would like them to. Not everybody understood the way you would like them to. So a lot of times you have to encourage your own self. And if you don't know how to do that, you can fall prey to what's out in the world. You can fall prey to the influences that other people come up with to try to sway you to their opinions or ways of life. um, I was just thankful that I had a foundation in the Word of God. That even though I might have went to the left a little bit or found my own way of thinking, that the Word of God in me always brought me back.
Wow, not only going through a loss of your husband at such a young age, raising a 12-year-old and a daughter who is going into adulthood and dealing with, millennials and Gen Zs is tough in and of itself because the world wants to pull them one way and you're hoping to pull them another way. Did your son have any questions about dad, or why did he have to die, or did you watch him go through any type of grieving process?
The grieving process is different for everyone. I watched my son become more withdrawn. I watched my son not really become an outgoing male. He's just kind of to himself. But my daughter, in essence, went totally the opposite. She became more outgoing. She leaned on the friends and the community, and just to pull in that which she was missing from her dad not being there. So they just dealt with it in different ways. And, I had to be able to be available for both ends of those spectrums, the one that had all of the people around them to kind of pull them in one direction, and the other one that didn't want anybody around them. So it was hard trying to juggle where's that middle ground.
Right.
Okay, you got too many people over there, and this one you don't have enough people. It was difficult, and I think they had to each go through their own grieving process, and then I had to go through mine. It was just a moment of trying to help them while I was trying to help myself.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. When talking about your daughter, I know you've had a lot of heartache, not because she's out there doing things wrong. Of course, she's done things that you wish she wouldn't have done, but she's been through some chronic illness. Let's talk about um, what you're dealing with and what is her chronic illness.
My daughter, she gave birth to her second child in 2012. And it was then she was diagnosed with peripartum cardiomyopathy. It's a disorder of the heart um, that comes with childbirth. And while I was very unfamiliar with it, and in fact, we almost missed it, we just thought she was having a heart episode that could be easily rectified. But she almost lost her life giving birth to her second child. And it was a series of hospital stays, a series of very significant illnesses that with her heart condition that she was told don't have any more children. It just became that. There was one part when she had that when she was giving birth to the second child that they didn't even think she would make it through it.
Wow.
I remember sitting there with her and she says to me, and this was about a few hours before they wanted to do the C-section, that she sat there and she said, "Mommy, let's just go." And I was with her because I knew the consequences of them taking her into the room to deliver the child, and they were already telling me that didn't look good. And I remember looking at her and said, "Okay, we can go, but I don't know how to deliver this baby, and I don't know what we can do. So maybe we need to stay
Hmm.
and just trust the Lord to get us through this."
Hmm. And did she stay?
She did, and we prayed, and we gave birth to my second granddaughter, but it was rough afterwards. There was a moment that, we wasn't sure. Yeah.
And she's had, how many children does she have now?
She has three. She has
So the
three.
third child, did her heart have the same type of problem that it did with the second child?
Um, sh- After the birth of the second child in 2012, she was strongly, and I emphasize strongly advised not to have any more. They wanted to tie her tubes. They told her that it could be the death of her. So she was trying to heal after having children back to back. She had the other one in 2011, the first one, and then she had the second one in 2012. So we all advised her not to. So when she
Mhm.
came to me in 2016 or to the end of 2015 to tell me that she was pregnant, I was devastated. I was absolutely devastated because I knew from going through from that 2012 period to the 2015 period, it was in and out the hospital. It was many difficult moments. And for her to tell me she was pregnant, I was lost for words. When she told me I couldn't even talk to her. I just told her, "I'll have to call you back."
I can't imagine what any parent would go through thinking the possibility of losing a child. I know my mother lost my brother in 1999 to AIDS, and she never forgot up until the day she died. My mom grieved the loss of my mother, so my brother. So I can't imagine what you're going through as a parent. What are some of the roadblocks and challenges that you have faced with a child that's dealing with a chronic illness?
Um, some of the roadblocks is just hearing reports from the doctor and still holding on to what God is saying versus what the doctor is saying. When she had that diagnosis and the doctor told her to abort my grandson in 2016, they told her there was absolutely no way that she was going to have this baby and survive. Um, I kind of took a step back because I knew this had to be a decision she had to make. But she made up in her mind that that was her baby and she was going to have it. I had to look at what the doctors were saying and say, okay, this is what you want to do. We're going to believe God to get you through it. And I had to even confront the doctor. And the doctor was sending her home every time, telling her all the grim reports. And I went to the doctor, me, sat in that office, eye to eye with that doctor, and said, either you're going to see her through this, or we're going to find another doctor because God is going to bring my daughter through this. Against everything that they said, we went through it. And that was very hard.
Wow. It's sad when you see God perform healing or intervene and what the doctor says doesn't happen.
Yes.
I love proving the doctors wrong against God, but there's times when the doctor's right. There's times when we lose hope and our faith is diminished by what we see. Because we have these eyes that God has blessed us with, sometimes what we see is not really what God sees.
Yes.
What was it like for you to really trust God with your daughter and she's still going through challenges?
Yes.
Did you ever think, God, are you listening to me? Your word says this, but wait a minute, this is happening.
Yes. Yes. Recently, in April of this year, she became, well, a little before April, she became very sick. She has been trying very hard to maintain the children and trying to work with a very serious heart condition. It has been a struggle for her. And she got very sick, kept going into AFib. Her heart kept racing, losing breath, couldn't do anything. And essentially, she went to the hospital and they pretty much said to her, you have about 30 days to live. That was difficult. Yes, the doctors do have wisdom. They have knowledge. They have scientific things and medical term and medical skills to guide you. But when they told her she had 30 days to live, to me, that says this is an impossible situation and it calls for God that can do the impossible. Because every doctor agreed that this was it. Every doctor, no matter who we went to, even to the second opinion we went to, the second hospital stay, they just agreed she's just not able to make it. And we'll try to get her to a transplant, but it's just not looking like it's going to work. And she called me to come to the hospital with the children so she could essentially spend her last few days with them. And I looked at her and I said, I know that's what the doctors are saying. And I know that's what it feels like. But I need you to trust the Lord because this is something I have to go beyond the doctors and decide that this is what I would like God to do. And I choose to have faith in God. And while I couldn't bring my daughter there with me, she was already set. Well, I might as well just do what I can these next 30 days. I said, no, that's not what's going to happen. We're going to believe God. And essentially, I'm at this point now, right now, where they put her on an IV drip that was supposed to take her into hopefully a transplant. They just removed the IV drip from her. They took out the PICC line. She has no IV. The doctors are saying she has been doing remarkable. Her numbers are greater than it's ever been. She's able to walk without being out of breath. I just made the decision to choose to believe God, and He has come through every single time.
So you had to stand in the gap.
I had to.
You
I had to.
How has this impact? Because I know when she was in the hospital, you took the grandchildren and that turns your life upside down. You're working a full-time job, you got to take them to school, you got to pick them up. And, you're thinking, I raised my kids and maybe, Lord, why are you putting me through this? You know what I mean? And why
Yeah.
some people go through one thing and others. Her faith, I know she has faith in God. I know she knows Jesus. What is it like for her today?
She has she's coming through with her faith. It's she actually believe that God has done this? To some degree, I guess I can say that she understands that it has to be a higher authority than what the doctors are showing her after coming through their report and seeing that she's still here. Um, but her faith, I'm working on it. I
Yeah.
keep showing her. Every time she tells me, I say, well, God did it.
Yeah.
God did it. But yes, it did turn my life around too, because all of the things that I thought I would be able to do at this point has kind of been on hold because I'm helping her with the children. I'm helping her, essentially supporting her as the best I can, doing what I can. So a lot of the things that I would think I would be doing at this age in my life, it's okay. I want to see my daughter make it. I want to see her believe in God. I want to see my grands come through. So we do what we have to do because that's what we are.
I
We got to do it.
Yeah, it's been a tough road for you, and that I do know. And trying to keep a full-time job. You lost your father not too long ago, going back and forth, to New York, and trying to take care of your grandkids, and you have a son, and your daughter's going through this challenge that
Yeah.
is really, really difficult. So your daughter can't get a pacemaker. She has to have a transplant?
She has a pacemaker. She has a few things in her heart. Through the years, they have put different things and devices in there. Um, Essentially, they said her heart is so bad that they just want to put her up for a transplant, but she's kind of heavy, so they can't put her on the list until she loses weight and becomes a little more stable. That's where they were headed in the hospital back in April. They were trying to do it, but they said that they didn't think she would last to get to that point, and they wanted to put an LVAD in her to kind of put the heart to pump in on the outside of the body rather than on the inside. And she was so against it that she would rather die than have that type of device. And I I was able to just talk to her and kind of get her so the anxieties would calm down and she doesn't need that at this moment, which is a blessing. It always comes through.
Yeah. How long has she had this illness?
Um, the first diagnosis came in 2011. We saw indications before then, but it wasn't a diagnosis that came from the
Right.
doctor until that time.
Right. Is this chronic illness a high percentage in the Black community or just in communities in general? It just,
While I'm not too familiar about the demographics of it all, I do see in she has support groups that she has joined in the meantime, and I just see women of all cultures in that support group. I do notice one thing though, that is the lack of awareness. People have that the women that give birth and they find they come into heart issues, they're not always aware that this disease does exist and the seriousness of it. And I've watched a few of this, they call them heart sisters, have passed on with little babies that they because they have not had the right tools and instruments and awareness on how to conquer this. So there needs to be some kind of alert that needs to go out to raise the awareness that this is a real thing and that women are being affected all over.
wow. Those of you that are listening, I'm talking with Alicia, who lost her husband almost 20 years ago, her father a year ago, and her daughter is going through a chronic illness. If you know of anybody and you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, please, please forward this on to a friend or family so they can be encouraged and listen to some of the steps Alicia is taking to keep her faith and also help build her daughter's faith. I mean, your faith doesn't rely in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. And it's not easy when you have a child that is going through a chronic illness and don't know from day to day, when this illness will take her life. But Elicia believing by faith that her daughter will live and not die, and that God will heal her from this. Um, and then she will have a powerful story. What type of impact, Elicia, does this have on the children? Because it must have an impact on the children. Because mom is in and out of the hospital, and
It really does impact the children. They've only known their mom in her illness. They've seen many times they've had to stay with me for long periods of time because mom was in the hospital or going through an issue, or they would be home relaxing and she would go through a heart episode and have to immediately be rushed to the hospital. They've seen their mom be carried off in an ambulance many times. They've seen her, and had to visit her in hospitals many times. We've had them with therapists. We've sent them along with therapists. We have them even now. They're in therapy. They've had impact in school, missing days at school because of illnesses. Just a lot of things. A lot of times they don't have what the other children have because, mom can't work. And depend on me. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, we do what we can, but
Mhm.
we get through it, but it's not going to be what everybody else has. So
Right.
that plays on them mentally sometimes, and they act out in school sometimes when I'm up there trying to deal with that. So yes, children are affected by chronic illness, and we should always pay attention.
You know, when children are acting out, most of the time they're acting out of their pain that they're dealing with. And I'm sure you're communicating with the school on some of the things that they're dealing with at home. And
Yeah,
because most kids aren't bad kids, a lot of kids are going through some type of trauma that
yeah.
it's showing now on the outside. Maybe it's showing on the inside now, it's showing on the outside. Um, there's other parents who have children that are going through chronic illnesses. What would you like to say to these parents?
I'd like to tell parents that um, pay attention to what your children are saying. Sometimes they're not saying exactly what they feel, but if you know your child, you can read between the lines. You can tell if they're withdrawn, or if you find them always in trouble or always trying to reach out to other children to share their feelings. They might not feel heard. Sometimes they just need someone to put their arms around and say, listen, I hear you. I know that, you're going through with me while I'm going through. Um, sometimes when we're going through our own traumas, we don't realize the impact of our trauma on the child, and understand that while you're going through a trauma, it's their trauma too. It's their trauma when they can't see you in your 100% capacity. They're going through it too. Be aware and pay attention to those signs so that they may need a little extra help. They may need someone to unload to. Those are
Mhm.
very important things to pay attention to.
Mm. I love what you said, and parents, if you heard what Alicia just say. A lot of times your child will act out and something might have happened and somebody might have said, "You better not tell your parents or I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that." Press them to tell you, let them know that whatever you're dealing with, we will help you. You're not gonna get in trouble. That's what the child needs to
Yeah.
know that you have their support. You're going to back them at all costs. And nobody wants their child to go through any type of chronic illness. It's painful not only for parents, but it's painful for the mom who has children that are going through this because they're already feeling down. They're devastated. They feel there's no hope. And then they're trying to raise their child to have hope and have faith, but that's not what the child is saying. And sometimes they have a tendency of acting out. Those of you that don't know Alicia, I know her very well. She is a good public speaker. So if you're listening to this, you're a pastor and you want somebody to come speak at your women's conferences or your church, Alicia is really good. She is a preacher. She sounds timid and quiet right now, but she is not. That girl can preach. What's in her does come out. Fabulous writer. If anybody wants her to write
Bless
any
you.
stories for them or any books, she is amazing.
Thank you.
Elicia, you have a
Thank you.
personal email address outside of JVM. What is your email address if somebody wants to reach out to you?
ebinhispraise@gmail.com. EBINHIS praise at gmail.com.
And if for any reason you reach out to Elicia and she does not respond, reach out to me and I will make sure she gets that message from you. Elicia, I love you so much. Thank you for being on Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes.
Thank you, Janet, for having me.
Thank you for listening to Healing and Made Free with Janet Boynes. Acts 10:34 says, God is no respecter of persons. God doesn't play favorites, which means what he has done for Janet, what he has done for guests on this show, he will do for you too. If you are struggling with anything, do not hesitate to reach out to Janet Boynes Ministries. They will do their best to help you any way they can. Go to the website, janetboynesministries.com. Janet loves you, and most importantly, God loves you. Have a blessed day.